Alone again in Sapodilla Bay. Not quite alone, there's a few boats here. Most notable, of course, is this three-masted schooner. Quite beautiful. Watching the sunsets on January 18. Be leaving the Turks and Caicos soon and proceeding on course to the Bahama Islands, Mayaguana, the first island to enter the country through. There were a couple of power yachts anchored out there beyond the schooner for the last couple of days. Gigantic behemoths with all their lights going at night and underwater lights lighting up the ocean green around them. And yesterday I had an interesting occurrence. The freezer didn't run at night, or actually turned itself off at a certain point. And I was sure I had another breakdown. And I was all prepared this morning to have to find out what happened to the power supply for the freezer. As it turns out, the freezer was so cold that even on the most aggressive thermostat setting, the thermostat had shut off the freezer. So, excellent. Something that hasn't gone wrong. Well, it's January 22nd. I've just cleared out from customs at South Dock on Provo a couple hours ago, and just drifting my way along in these very nice light winds, only actually showing about 6.5 knots now, which is quite good. And drifting along toward the west end of Provo. We're going to go around all the reefs and then to the northeast and tuck in at Malcolm Roadstead. That's in preparation for departure tomorrow for the Bahamas and Mayaguana. This is the first time that I've had the autopilot taking directions from the chart plotter. You see the word track there. It's following the tracks, the chart plotter's directions to get to the waypoint that I set up. Actually, a couple of 3 waypoints: Tango 3, then Tango 1, then Malcolm. And so that's kind of cool. Like I say, it's a beautiful, beautiful day for sailing here. You don't get anywhere in a big hurry. We're only doing about 2.5 knots, but it's very comfortable. got the engine running at 1,000 RPM just to create electricity so that we can charge the batteries up and also make water. Right now with these light winds and with the sun so far to the south at this time of year, I'd be at a deficit of about 9 amps if I didn't have the engine running. So now we're up about 2 amps, I believe, and at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which is coming up in a half an hour, I'll shut down the water maker, having made another 100 liters approximately over the previous 4 hours. And so, very pleasant sailing day. I don't know what time I'm going to be leaving Malcolm for Mayaguana, but it's going to be sometime before dawn. I have to decide whether to do it at midnight or sometime later. It's going to depend on the wind forecast. I believe the wind's going to be quite light again, so I may end up leaving around midnight so as to try to get to Abraham's Bay with good light. This is a windy day here in Abraham's Bay. There's a powerful low to the north of us, and we're getting a bit of a effect from that, even though there's hurricane winds farther north in the Atlantic. Down here, it's just 25 knots. It was 25 knots last night, and again today. Good for the electricity making, and of course, being here in this lovely bay, there's no problem whatsoever in staying nice and snug. And that boat you just saw there in the distance ahead of us is the catamaran Next Life. A couple of people from Victoria, BC there, and they brought me a care package. Stuff, they said that they had left over too much food from an Atlantic crossing, and so they brought me over all this stuff. I haven't even checked out half of what it is here. Some, I think she said it was banana bread or Christmas cake or something like that, and all kinds of good stuff here. So that was very kind of them. And as well, they brought me a Canadian flag, which is what I desperately need, because I don't know if you've seen the condition of the Canadian flag I have now at the back. It's been on the boat 6 weeks when it started to deteriorate, or when we returned to the boat, it was already totally destroyed, having been up a total of 6 weeks, and I don't think the wind was all that strong. It's just probably a poor quality flag. But here, take a look at this, and then you'll see what I mean. That's all that's left of it. Barely nothing. That's all that's left of it. So anyway, that was very kind of them. That was very kind of them. They had quite a laugh when they saw my flag. You hear that noise there? I'm making water. Yeah, taking advantage of the strong winds and the electrical possibilities that means. And there we are. We're actually just hanging around the break-even point right now. But anyway, it certainly helps. The wind helps to do all the electrical things I need to do. And that's our story for the while. We're going to stay here for a while. Next Life is heading off now, heading generally on the way to Miami. They have a bit of a timetable to stick to. They've got to get her back for work, I believe. So, yeah. So they're heading off today. Kind of a windy day, but they look like they're very capable people, and the winds and the large waves don't seem to bother them. Good for them. Finally today I thought, well, I'll prepare by just moving out of Abraham's Bay, which can't be negotiated in the dark, and get over to Betsy Bay or someplace like that which can be left in the dark. And so I was going to anchor in Betsy Bay, but as soon as I got out into the water, I could see that both Start Bay and Betsy Bay were completely useless as far as being able to anchor there for the night. The waves were just too large, and it was all lee shore pretty well. I don't know how that happens, but the way the current was sweeping around would have made it very uncomfortable. So looking at the chart, there was really only one choice, and that was for me to come to East Plana Cay, which is something that I wasn't going to do then. I decided not to, but in the end that's what I've done. And so traveled all day, and now it's just I guess about an hour or so before dark, or an hour and a half before dark. Plenty of time. I've got myself anchored here. I thought there was going to be a bit of a problem because the island is surrounded by reef, and I was getting quite close to the island and quite close to the breaking rocks, and hadn't even picked up any soundings yet. But anyway, yeah, there was no problem. Once I got closer to the rock, to the reef, I was able to anchor. And I'm in about 35 feet of water right here. All the chain is out, and it looks like we're in actually pretty good shape. This is an uninhabited island. It's used by fishermen. It's quite long and narrow. Not a great anchorage. It's going to be a bit rolly tonight, but really I don't have any other choice. If I want to keep continuing west, and if I don't want to travel at night or in the dark too much, because it's just unpleasant without getting sleep, then I have to pretty well stay here. This cuts off a big chunk of it. Allows me to get over to Acklands or Crooked Island tomorrow perhaps, and there's some decent harbors there. So the one night I have to kind of rough it and just put up with it. This is East Plana Cay. It only settles down when the bow swings around into the waves here. If I had a riding sail, I might be able to have a pleasant night, but unfortunately I don't have one. I should try to see if I can do something with the mainsail. Well, it's a wild and woolly night here so far. Well, what a sunset. And what I mean is that we've got these ominous looking clouds coming up. Spread over the sky. And anyway, we're pretty comfy and cozy here where we are. And the worst that can happen is that the anchor could drag and we drift out into the ocean. I don't mind that so much. I can pull the anchor up. Oh, we're on the way to Crooked Island. Still morning time. Had a crazy night last night at East Plana Cay. They gave us a little bit of shelter in the lee of the island, but then the whole night was just one big rocking and a rolling. But when you're expecting it to be like that, it's for some reason not so bad. Although we were tossing through I'm sure at times 45, 50 degrees. Anyway, by around dawn, the wind veered around to the east-southeast, and we no longer had any kind of protection for the land. Basically just anchored in the ocean, and the wind was fortunately not too much. It was about 15 knots, but the waves are pretty impressive, and we got going. It was very difficult in those winds and waves to get the anchor up. Had to wait for the slack, and that happens in the chain when the bow goes down, and use that time to crank it up a foot. Kept doing that. Eventually the anchor broke free when I had about 35 feet of chain out. So I had no choice but to motor away slowly with 35 feet of chain hanging down. It banged the ground once, and then we got into deeper water. But that was good. I was a little worried that we might end up having a stuck chain on some of the coral down there, and I'd have no way at 35 feet of depth to get that anchor up without a lot of difficulty, especially in the strong winds. It would have been pretty much impossible. I had to get the dinghy out and try to fish for it or something, but you know, you can imagine how successful that would be. So anyway, we left East Plana Cay 7 o'clock in the morning, and now on the way to Crooked Island, bypassing Ackland's Island. And the wind's about 20 knots, waves are sometimes 12 feet, but we're doing just fine, motoring along quite pleasantly. And when I say motoring, I mean sailing, of course. We're not motoring. Just keeping an eye on the frothing reef out there. This is the northwestern point area of Crooked Island. Bird Rock. And the island itself. Just going to go around the island there, actually around the reef, and anchor for the night off Landrail Point. And just as the sun starts to slip below the horizon, I'm here, just south of Town, place known as Long something. Long Rail. I keep thinking it must have been a French name originally. Long Rail Point. I've got a bit of a bridle system out here. You see, I've got this line here going out to the anchor chain. The anchor chain is, well, you can't see it from this angle, it's going down into the water at an angle too, and you see it's holding our nose out. I cut myself off there. And so the bridle setup is holding our bow out to the swells, the little swells which are coming around the corner here. So with any luck, if nothing much changes, we might have a half-decent night's sleep tonight, which would mean that this might be the very first calm anchorage in the Bahamas for me. Unbelievable. Well, after what I must say was actually quite a beautiful day's sail, dead running downwind, we've arrived here at Clarence Town, just in behind these rocks. Well, you know you're ocean sailing when you have swells like this coming in. Every once in a while it looks like we're climbing a mountain or going down the other side. It's just the swells building up in the shallows here outside of Clarence Town. You don't see this on lakes. Like I found on during my walk on Mayaguana with the rough rocks, you can't imagine how shredded these rocks are. They're very sharp. They're all worn out. Look at this. Now I can't break that, but often you could, you know. You step on it wrong, it just snaps off. Very frangible, but very sharp. Well, I've come ashore here to do a little sightseeing with the camera this time. We're here at Clarence Town. There really isn't much of a town. Nice dock though. And there's Flying Fish Marina, where I picked up some fuel the other day. Opportunity to get some fuel when the winds were extremely calm, because their dock really requires a fender board, which I don't have. But for now, anyway, we're going to go ashore and take a look, especially at the two churches that are here. They're certainly interesting, built by the same man. This place is the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries. Is a place where you can buy some fresh produce and from the island here. And this is a restaurant. This is basically supposed to be the only restaurant, I guess, although there is something else up the road, and yet I haven't seen it open yet. Now, after a little walk down past the community center, we're coming up here to the Anglican Church. This was built by Jerome Hawes when he was an Anglican minister. The church has actually lost a fight with a hurricane by the look of it. No roof anymore. Now they've piled everything back there into the part that still has a roof. They've got a bit of work to do here. This is heading on down toward the Flying Fish Marina. I thought I'd just take a little walk today. A lot of roofs showing damage here, probably from hurricanes. That seems to be something you see everywhere. And later, when Jerome Hawes converted to Catholicism, he became Father Jerome and built this place. Well, goodbye to Clarence Town on this beautiful, calm, sunny morning. We're off for Rum Cay. And just motoring right now, 1100 RPM. Just tired of Clarence Town, nothing much to do here. And we got a bit of a window. We should have good lee anchorages at Port Nelson for 2 nights, and then at the northern tip of Long Island for the 3rd night. Should all be wind from the east. So that's what we need, and we're off for Rum Cay. And how about that for some watercolor? This is beautiful Rum Cay. Just arrived. There's a marina over there, which I may just drop by to see what it's like, but I won't be staying there. And beautiful sand beach all the way around here. Quite a bit of chatter on the radio, but I think all the boats must be in the marina because there's the only other guy who's anchored with me out here, that catamaran right up against the shore. There's nobody else in the anchorage. Anyway, it's quite beautiful. It looks like it's about 5 feet deep or so. I actually got out a tape measure and stuck it down until I hit the bottom in order to determine whether or not my depth sounder was reading correctly. And the depth sounder was about 6 inches off. It was reading 10.5 feet. Actually, it's 11 here. So, I mean, that's quite amazing. That's the shadow of the boat on the bottom. Gonna go have a little swim and check the anchor. We're protected here by a reef. Now the reason this is going to work, I think, tonight is because wind is supposed to continue to veer around, actually, and get very light. It's going to come over here to the west and get very light, and it's going to continue to move around, and it will get quite a bit stronger, but it'll be into the north and behind the island here and to the northeast. So should be very good for us, a nice lee shore. So we'll see. This has a reputation of being a rolly anchorage, and I only plan on being here for a couple of nights, so we can handle that, I guess. No problem. And I know you were dying to see my artwork here, so let me see if I can get the camera turned around here so you can see this without dropping it in the water. Well, there you go. Hopefully you're able to look at that. Yeah. That's my artwork there. Not too bad. It does the trick anyway. Well, after a night at Port Nelson, Rum Cay, in which the wind veered around gently as expected to the east, and it decreased a bit to 15 knots. But it was a very, very rolly end to my stay there. And now we've set sail. We're going to round the northern tip of Long Island, which is what you're seeing here. And just as a matter of interest, this is this cape here is called Cape Santa Maria, and the reason for that is because Columbus ran his ship Santa Maria aground on the reefs here, and you can see the reefs there, hopefully. Camera focuses, there we are. And I guess they got it off safely, but yeah, so that's kind of an interesting little bit of history. Well, pretty soon we'll be at our turning point, and for the short little sail down the western side of Long Island, the short distance to Calabash Bay, where we'll stay tonight. And now I'm here safely at Calabash Bay. Those reefs around Santa Maria Cape were quite impressive. And here in Calabash Bay there's a significant swell coming in. I've got an anchor out at the back. You can see a bit of the rope there. And that is out the back there to keep the stern. Look at that. Huh. Swell coming in there with breaking swell. Huh. Anyway, keeps the stern out to the swell, and hopefully we'll have a fairly quiet night. It's certainly going to beat the night that I had last night at Port Nelson. Once the wind got into the east, veered into the east as it was supposed to, there was a significant wave action that started up. It wasn't a constant rolling, which can get really irritating, but it was just every once in a while the boat would do a real roll left and right, and you'd hang on and hope that everything in the kitchen wasn't going to go crashing. Anyway, here now, put that anchor out, which involved a bit of a swim, and then I had a nice hot shower. Yeah, that's right, hot shower, because even when it said 28 degrees today on the thermometer, there was a real chill in the air. I don't know why, but it feels like winter down here. And I was sitting out in the sun a lot of the day, sunning myself as we were sailing along. And now just waiting for the sun to go down. It actually is quite a clear sky, more than usual, so I'm hoping we might get some sort of an interesting sunset. Well, it's been a while since I've done a sunset shot. Let's see what we can get here. If we'll be lucky enough to get a green flash, who knows? It's a long shot. I can't say I saw any green flash that time. Never seen one yet. There's always another day. Well, for the next little while, I'll be among these islands. These are the Exumas. Just about to enter the eastern passage to Elizabeth Harbor, Georgetown. I don't know if you can see this watercolor, but this is amazing. It's a real turquoise blue. Well, that's Foul Key, and that's Guana Key. And my friends from Abraham's Bay on Next Life, the catamaran, tried to come from the other side through that passageway, following what is surely an outdated chart, which is the same chart that I have. It's the latest chart from Navionics, but that electronic chart is no longer accurate. That is a complete reef across there, and they tried to come through on January 29th, and their boat sank. They're okay. They're back in Victoria, BC by now. But a real tragedy, unbelievable. It just goes to show you have to have more than one source of information. And I'm relying on 3 here as I work my way closer toward, there's a waypoint change on my route. Wants to know if I want to go to the next waypoint. Yes, I do. And the boat automatically turns to its new heading. Pretty cool. Anyway, that's kind of shocking. Poor guys. You got to have more than one source of information. I've got the same Navionics chart and wavy line paper chart and cruising guide. And both those other 2 sources show that as an impassable reef. Once upon a time you could get through there, but there's been a lot of coral growth all in this area of the ocean. Well, I should be there in an hour or so. Still working our way behind the islands here, getting closer to Georgetown.